So these are what we're going to be talking about tonight, like some facts about the NCAA, the difference between the division, scholarships, recruiting, timeline, eligibility, all the things that are just going to really touch and get your family going. So a little bit about the NCAA. There's a lot of people that want to be athletes and compete at the NCAA level. So these are some great numbers to give you an idea about the high school students and how many of them actually go on to an NCAA, how many of them actually go on to professional. So these are the topics we're going to discuss. I went through that just verbally. This, if you're a visual person, this allows you to see them as well. And then these are the numbers I started to talk about. So the numbers of athletes, the numbers like for the popular ones like football and baseball, things that are going on that way. The numbers, and you can see how the numbers get smaller and smaller as you go down towards professional. And then there's some other statistics on the side. And this is pretty cool. Astronaut, she is former Navy soccer team captain. So just really to accentuate the idea that not all student athletes go on to be professional in their sport, that some of them go on to have really amazing careers from the education that they gleaned while they were being a student athlete for the NCAA. So the differences. So what are we talking about? You hear people say D1, D2, D3. So this gives you a slight overview of what the differences are in this little arrangement. So NCAA is sort of like joining, let me give you an analogy, like joining AAA of California. So the NCAA is a governing body that oversees everything. So all of our schools, we all pay to be a part of the NCAA. Then we get the benefits from that. They help manage scholarships. They manage a lot of the playoffs. So all that stuff. So they're like sort of running the whole show. So D1, those are usually the biggest schools. Although I did meet a D1 school that just went D1 this year and they have 6,000 students. So that's a little different than our 58,000 total students that we have at our D1 school. So usually it's the biggest one, and they do have the most scholarship money available. D2 has some money available, and it usually comes through academics. They send them that way, and they do have a little bit of money, and you're still going to great schools. I mean, D1, D2, D3, there's no difference in the amazing opportunity you have for education. They're just all different, a little bit different. In D3, there's no money coming in for D3, but sometimes they tie those to academic scholarships to help their student athletes go that way. So here we go with the scholarships again. So D1 can get a multi-year cost of attendance. So cost of attendance is considered, so it's not just your tuition, it's not just housing, it's not just your meal plan. They also have some extra money built in there for, like, maybe you need a new laptop computer, you need textbooks, you need a little bit of money for travel. So multi-year cost of attendance is a great scholarship. Not everybody gets cost of attendance scholarships. Football players do. So if you're playing a D1 football team, you either get cost of attendance or you get nothing. It's either all or nothing. It's really interesting. But there are many other sports like soccer and baseball and things that you can have a variety of levels of scholarships that those students can get. D2 give partial athletic scholarships, and D3 get no athletics scholarships. So that's a little bit that way. And of course, I work for the University of Florida, so I have to have that Gator picture in there. Recruiting terminology. So these are terms that you need to learn. Every sport, like when you apply to a college that has its own terminology, NCAA also has its own terminology. So contact, anytime a college coach says more than hello during a face-to-face meeting, and that went to virtual meetings as well. Evaluation, that's a college coach observation. Verbal commitment, student athlete agrees to play sports for a college. Official commitment, student athlete signs a national letter of intent. And the campus visit is any visit to a college campus, unofficial or official. And the national letter of intent, it's signed by a college-bound student athlete agreeing to attend a D1 or D2 school for one academic year. These national letter of intent, these are the letters that if a student says, like, agrees to play for Ohio State, then changes their mind and wants to play for Michigan. These are the letters that come into play, and sometimes they have to sit out for a year because they sign that national letter of intent. So what do you do for different grades? Okay, my student's a 9th grader, my student's a 10th grader. Oh my gosh, we're seniors now. We should. So I'm going to go through. These are the things that the NCAA suggests for each level of student. So the 9th graders, it's time to register. You can register for a free profile at the Eligibility Center. So if you're going to be recruited and you want to be recruited by the NCAA, you're going to have to register yourself on their website. In the long run, you have to go through NCAA clearinghouse to play for any school. So you need to get registered. You're going to find out about the courses. There are specific courses that you need to take to be eligible. This is going through the NCAA clearinghouse to be eligible to be recruited. So you're going to double check to make sure you're taking the right courses. You also have amazing college counselors here at your high schools. These counselors know what courses you should and should not be taking. So they're going to help you out. So if you're thinking about going to NCAA in the long run, make sure you let them know so they can get you on the right path right as a freshman. Then the 10th grade, you're actively being recruited. You're going to make a profile page. Then you're going to go to a certification account. So the profile page is free. Okay, now you think you're a sophomore and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm like the best in the school and we do whole things for our community, our USD. I see that I'm like one of the best in this whole area, or I played on a traveling team and I'm pretty good. And coaches are already starting to reach out to me. You're definitely going to get to a certification account and you have to pay to make these accounts. Okay, you're also going to make sure you're still taking the right courses. You're doing everything you can to make sure you're on the right track to clear yourself through the Eligibility Center. And again, it says if you fall behind academically, again, you have to make sure you're taking the right courses and you're getting good grades. Coaches want to see good grades. 11th grade, you're still, okay, you already made your certification account. You're going to make getting those good grades. Okay, double check your account, make sure everything's correct. Make sure you're taking the right courses. You need to take the tests. And this is where it's sort of weird right now. NCAA requires either the SAT or an ACT score in order to clear NCAA clearinghouse. When you take the ACT or the SAT, you know how you can select to send those scores to a school for free? You're also going to select to send that to NCAA Eligibility Center, which is the code. So instead of sending it to the University of Florida or Iowa, wherever you're going to go, you send it also to 9999. You're going to send your scores there. Because of COVID, there is a COVID waiver where students right now do not have to submit test scores, but you need to check with the college to which you want to play for. Like the University of Florida, we have never been test optional and we still need test scores in order for an application to be complete. The Florida Board of Governors requirement, not ours specifically. So if you want to play football for the Gators or basketball or women's soccer, you're going to have a test score. You cannot use that waiver that they're offered during COVID. So definitely check with the schools that you're interested to see if you need a test score. The NCAA had a task force to look at testing, and they decided that they really don't think it's required from now on, but they won't be voting on it until I think it's either January or February of 2023. They're going to have a big board meeting and make a decision whether to waive test scores forever or if they're still going to go back to making those required. So you will find out soon, but it's not something, if you, especially if you're a senior, you don't want to monkey around with right now if your school needs test scores, so you make sure you're getting those test scores. You're going to upload an official transcript to the Eligibility Center. So you're going to be working with this website that you have and double checking everything that you're doing. 12th grade, you're going to get an amateur certificate that you have to go through NCAA to double check and make sure you qualify for. There's also different sports where you don't have to have a amateur. So you will work with your coaches and the coaches at the college level to figure out what you need. Take the SAT or ACT again, especially if you need to improve your score. You're going to make sure you're taking those core courses that you need to graduate to clear the NCAA clearinghouse. Okay, and you're also going to get your final transcript. An official final transcript, the difference between like an unofficial transcript that you're going to upload your 11th grade is the official final transcript has all the courses, all your grades, and it also has a graduation date. So that's what an official final transcript is going to be comprised of. So we were talking about the terminology, and one of those was contact. Okay, the things that the coaches can or can't do. So this one just happens to be beach volleyball. This is the calendar from this year, and you can see all the different colors. You can see the code at the top. So there's quiet, dead, evaluation, and contact. And these are other terminology that you can look up on the NCAA website, but this is the calendar that the coaches have to adhere to. Not particularly you as a student. You're not required to know this. They are required to know this. So each sport is going to have its own recruiting calendar, and the college coach. So if, say I'm a sophomore and I'm really good at women's beach volleyball, so I am more than welcome at any time that I want to reach out to the coach for wherever I want to play. If I send the coach an email, I'm going to make it very amazing. I'm going to have some statistics. I might have a link to video. I'm going to make it concise and easy. Coaches are very busy, so you make it as easy as you can on them. I may send this amazing email off, and it may be during a quiet period where they're not allowed to even talk to me. So they may be allowed to say a few words. It may be a dead period. So I might not hear back at all. Sometimes you might get a thank you for your email. That's very something simple that doesn't go any deeper than that. So this calendar, if you get on the radar, when it's time for them to talk, if they want to talk, they will reach back out to you. But you need to advocate for yourself. Especially if you're someplace thousands of miles from the school, and maybe you haven't had the opportunity to do a lot of travel teams and stuff, but the things you have done, you've really excelled at. So the eligibility, you heard me talk about going through NCAA clearinghouse to show your eligibility. You have to meet all these eligibilities. So the scores, your GPA, you have to have a certain number of classes to be admitted to play your sport at a college or university. But once you get there, NCAA is still making sure you're getting a good education. There are milestones for the first year, second year, as number of classes you've had to have taken at college and university, the GPA you must maintain. So they're going to still make sure you are getting that education. Ultimately, with only about less than 2% of the college athletes going on to play professional, this is what you're here for, to get a great experience playing your sport and to get an amazing education. So what are the core courses? What are they talking about? So for high school, there are specific courses that you must take in order to meet these NCAA approved. You have to be academic. They have to be 4-year college preparatory courses, things in English, math, natural physical science, social science, foreign language, and comparative religion or philosophy. So these are some of the courses that will count, and they will tell you which category they fall onto. You have to be at or above your high school's regular academic level. So college, they're recruiting you to play a sport. Let's say you're heading to Stanford to play a sport. You're very good at your sport, but you're also being recruited to be a student at Stanford. These coaches need to make sure that you can, I don't know the word, maybe like stand up with, be able to hold your own in these classes with the others that are not student athletes. So they're definitely going to be looking at your grades to see how you're going to do, how you're going to fit in. You will be, all these colleges and universities, big ones, little ones, they all provide so much academic support for their athletes, but you don't want to always get behind the 8 ball or start off in a place that you won't be successful. And the coaches know this. So they're definitely going to be looking at your grades and your test score when you're applying. You're going to be taught by qualified instructors. So if you're going to a public school, if you're going to another school here in the state, you're probably taught by qualified instructors. There are very, very few schools that are not accredited in one way or the other. But not all of your high school classes are NCAA core classes. So let's see, driver's ed, typing, music, physical education, welding, those are not core classes. Again, go back to the English, math, natural physical science, social science. And when you do make your count, you will see and have access to these on the NCAA website. I like wrestling. It was fun to watch this year. This guy was amazing. He's going to be representing the US in the Olympics. He's just a really neat guy. So we'll talk about those core courses. You need to complete 16 of those core courses. You need 4 years of English, 3 years of math at an Algebra 1 or higher level. Okay, so it's going down here, telling you all that you need to play. And see there at the bottom, earn at least a 2.3 GPA in your core courses. So there's 16 courses. You must get a 2.3. It doesn't matter. You could be a blue chip the one that's, let's go number one from high school to college, and to play your sport. But if you don't have a 2.3, NCAA will not clear you and you will be ineligible. A lot of times those students will head to community college or like a local junior college to make sure they can get their GPA up. So if you want to play straight out of high school, get that 2.3 unweighted GPA. And how are students recruited? So how are you going to become an athlete? You're sitting here and you're like, wow, how do I get recruited? Reach out to the coach, be your own advocate, go on the school's website, find your sport, find the coach, send them an email or give them a call. Emails are usually easier, especially during the season, because they can look at those at their convenience. You don't want to interrupt their day where they're really super busy and they just happen to pick up the phone and they're in a rush. So an email is a great way to do it. If you send an email and it's not a quiet period or anything, if you looked at the calendar and you want to reach out with a phone call, you can do that later. But a lot of times the coaches will respond with an email back if you send them things. Make your communication brief but complete. Coaches are very busy here. I'm reiterating, you've heard me say this once already. Make it easy. Upload some video. Y'all, if you don't need to go out and spend thousands of dollars to hire somebody to videotape you. Everybody has phones. Have a friend take some video of you with their phone and you can just make it, upload it to YouTube or Vimeo, make your own little account. You guys are all technologically savvy. I'm sure you can edit your own video. I suggest to my families all the time not to spend a lot of money to make this professional highlight reel. Coaches don't need it. They just need some basic video of you. So what is our role? So people are like, oh, you're talking about NCAA, but you're an admissions officer. What is your role? So we provide the coaches with support, especially when it comes to all the paperwork it requires to get these students enrolled in our colleges and universities, and then to continue monitoring them for their grades in the course like NCAA does expect us to. We will look at them to make sure they are preliminary, be able to meet the eligibility. NCAA does the final say, NCAA clearinghouse. Okay, but if you're going to come to a campus visit, then we're also going to make sure you have met the eligibility requirement up to your grade level, what you should be doing. So they'll go through us if you come to do an official visit on a college campus. What characteristics appeal to a coach? Okay, they're looking for that talent. Are you coachable? Okay, I used to teach at a private international boarding school, and I remember the coach from UCLA basketball coming to our campus in the middle of Florida to talk to us about a student he was recruiting. He was asking about character. He was asking about how he was in the classroom. Now, some of you might be like, oh, that really happens? Yes, that happens. So make sure you're always on your best behavior. Make sure you are participating in your classes. Make sure you are polite and kind to these people that you're working with, because they want you on a team. If you're not coachable, if you're obstinate or arrogant, it's really hard to coach people like that. And they may not recruit you just because of that characteristic that you're showing them. They want to see that you're good standing for academics, your potential for success. They don't want to spend all this time and money recruiting you to have you flunk out of school. So they're going to be watching you a little bit closely this way. They want to make sure you graduate on time. So one of my colleagues that I work with at Florida, his sons both play NCAA D1 football, one at Notre Dame and one at George Washington. And they actually, because they were being heavily recruited, they went to some high school summer school and they graduated a semester early, because the football teams like to get those students right after Christmas. So that first spring, right when they're starting to do their practices, they like to get them on campus and going, because those football games start immediately in the fall. So sometimes they will work with you to make sure you're graduating early. And the mental toughness, again, recruitability, strong character, the work ethic, the leadership. This is what they're looking for when they're recruiting. And then these are some of the websites. I think the CUSD shares the PowerPoints with y'all later. I'm not sure, but we all have access to these websites. If you guys want to take a screenshot, if you want to take a photo of it, this is the place that you're going to go as a parent or as a student to find out more. There's the 2022-23 student resource. This is like a 47-page document that gives you detailed information about what I just went through, down and down and down, about how to set up their free account. How do you set up the next level account? How do I check that I'm going through classes on the NCAA clearinghouse for the website? What about the testing? How do I get a COVID waiver so I don't have to do the tests? How do I check if the schools I want to go to actually require a test? So all these things are going to be outlined when you get to these pages. Okay, I'm going to leave this up here for just a few more minutes. But basically, that's the short and really quick introduction to NCAA athletics. So I hope some of that was some new information for you, because let me go back to there we go. So now we can work on, you have these amazing counselors who work with students who want to go to the NCAA all the time. They gave you somebody different to listen to. So somebody from the University of Florida that also shared my insight on the athletic recruiting process. And so now we can take some Q&A.
Thank you so much, Pam. Yeah, if anyone has any questions, feel free to submit it in the Q&A box. We can take some time now to answer some questions. Oh, I think you're muted, Pam.
You'd think we'd know by now after 2.5 years of this. So showcases. So these might be some hard conversations you have with the coaches of the, like, is this a good expenditure of our family money on these showcases? Some of these showcases are heavily attended by college recruiters. You're going to see lots of D1, D2, D3, all of these showcases, and those are great ways for you to get yourself noticed. So this is like in lieu of sending an email right away if you're planning these showcases. But if it was my son playing in the showcases, I would make sure that they're going to be well attended before I spent my money to go there. Make sure that sometimes they'll give a list of the schools that are showing up for recruiting at these showcases. And then also if they go and they play and there's a great recruiting, panel there watching everybody, I'd also still reach out to the coaches that your student wants to go to that way. What did the admissions office at a college need for a preliminary evaluation? Do the students include transcripts and contact emails, or does the school reach out to the high school counselor? Yes, both. So the high school counselors can play a role. Some of my schools that I know of will actually do all that for their high school students that they are in charge of. They'll send that transcript and do that. Sometimes the school, like we have 2 people in our office, and that's what they do. They run between the coaches and the NCAA and then the high school. So they're like a little right in the middle of all that. And they'll work with the high schools, make sure they're getting what they need for if they have a student that they want to bring on campus for a visit. They may work with NCAA to make sure they're going through clearinghouse the right way and have the right accounts set up. So all of that will happen. Your coach, if your son or daughter is honestly being recruited, the person from that campus will tell you exactly what you need to do prior to that visit. It won't be a guessing game. You'll have a little checklist. You know exactly what you need to do. Okay, so we're talking about these, we already go, but we don't know what to do once we're there. I guess it depends on the sport. I'm not really familiar what you're talking about that way, but I know like if it's a showcase where the students are there and like the bleachers are filled with coaches, there's not much you do besides play. Sometimes they already have a brochure with all the student athletes that are going to be there, and they hand that to the college people that are there, so they have an idea of this number is this student and this is where they go to high school, and so they have all this list of student things available. That's the way I have seen it done. I guess it might vary sport to sport and showcase to showcase. So definitely do your homework before you go to these showcases and see who's going to be there. How are they communicating your students' information to these coaches? What grade your student is in, what they're interested in studying. There's a lot of things they can look at if they are looking for like GPAs, if they take AP courses, honors courses, all these things that coaches are looking for. Sometimes these showcases will provide all of that information, and sometimes they just do a little bit. So definitely just do your homework. Make sure you're spending your money wisely. There's a question. I don't think you all can see the questions. So we're getting emails from sports recruiters and other websites trying to promote and showcase our athletes. How useful are these in the recruiting process? Are they worth the money and the effort? We have spoken to a couple coaches and they usually say no. They usually say that these websites and these to pay to join are doing the exact same thing you can as a parent and as a student. And I say parent and as a student because it is a teamwork and a family to have a student athlete. you're spending a lot of money, you're going lots of different places. It's definitely a family investment. But when it comes to the actual recruiting, coaches, admissions office, they want to talk to the student themselves, not the parents. So I'm going to put that little in there today. It's just all about the students. So the parents have to do a little prodding to get them going a little bit, but they definitely want to talk to the students. The couple of coaches I talked to at the University of Florida said it's really not worth the money. If they had a student that was going to be recruited to play, they don't go through the websites. They do go ahead and have the students make their own videos, have them edit them out if they need to. If they're making videos, a lot of times you guys can go through and use like the circle and like the wand, and you can circle the number of who you are on a screen, or point big giant arrows so that the coaches know, because it's all numbers. They don't know who you are. They don't know how you look like. So make sure you're identifying yourself on that screen. But other than that, reach out. You can do it. You don't need to spend the money on the websites and the other people that promote you. At least that's what I've heard from the coaches at the University of Florida.
Hi, Pam. I have a question. This is actually from one of my colleagues. And my colleague would like to know, how soon can students reach out to coaches?
That's a really good question. We've asked coaches that too. He's like, I don't want to talk to sixth graders. He's like, but some of the sports, especially when the students take a little bit longer to develop in size and strength, it's a little bit later. My suggestion is they can reach out freshman year. I've listened to coaches. I was talking to the swimming coach. He's like, they can send me stuff their freshman year. That's fine. I may not get back with them, but at least they're getting on my radar. So I would do it when you're in high school, unless you are in middle school and you're playing on these high school traveling teams and you're like the best in the state. You're probably already on their radar if you were that student. But yeah, you can do start as a freshman if you want to.
Okay, thank you so much, Pam.
Yeah.
Okay. Were there any last minute questions for Pam while we have her?
I know it's a very quick overview. It's sort of like just hitting the highlights, but that's how it sort of starts. Just exposing you to a little bit about the NCAA process, encouraging you to go to the website and dig around. It's really fun just to see what all they offer on their website. Here's another question. Seems like the athletes are making their choices a little later than the academic students. Is that the case? Yes and no. I've seen athletes actually come in pretty early with their commitment letters. Sometimes they take a little bit longer. They'll sign in the spring, but they need to apply. So like all the student athletes are signing with the University of Florida in March, and the different sports have different signing periods. So what seems like very late, they actually could have already gone through the process and know they're going to be doing other things. So they still have to apply. So they still have to meet a lot of the deadlines. Sometimes they're waived depending on the sport, where they can bring that stuff in a little bit later. But the calendar, if your student's being recruited, your coaches at whatever school they're going to go to, like if they're down to like 2 or 3 different schools, they will be working with those coaches on a calendar and a timeline. And they'll know exactly when they need to make their decision in order to play a sport. So again, if your student's being recruited, there will not be any guessing games on your end. You'll have everything you need to make those decisions in that timeline. You're welcome. I'm hoping if I'm not answering these questions significantly enough, or how you want me to put it back in the chat, and I'll go back after them.
I do have another question, Pam. This is from on behalf of the class of 2024 and beyond. Given that this year there is a SAT, ACT waiver for the COVID-19 updates, would you recommend that students who on class of 2024 and beyond think about taking the SAT or the ACT, given that there was a waiver this year and we probably might not have a waiver for upcoming years. What are your thoughts on that?
My thoughts are they should be voting on that in January, February, to whether to get rid of the scores or not. So there really isn't, if they want to register for a spring test, they could go ahead and take a test in the spring while they're waiting to find out for sure if it's going to be dropped or not. And again, like if they're going to go to a Florida public school, we need test scores. So you're still going to need that test score. So it depends on what school you're looking at, but you'll know for sure in just a few months. So I wouldn't worry. If you're a junior, you're not signing up for the December test. It's not going to make or break your recruitability. But if you want to wait a little bit before you sign up a spring one, then you can wait and find out if they're going to make it official or not, whether you need them. I just hang on and wait for it.
All right. Thank you so much, Pam.
Sure.
Also, to piggyback on that question, are there any other additional updates regarding COVID-19 with the NCAA that students should be aware about?
The one thing is that everybody's getting their extra COVID year. So if you are a senior right now, you are in an unfortunate situation where the recruiting is like almost ground to a halt. It's really slowed down because a lot of the athletes that they already have are getting an extra year to play. So they're bringing way less student athletes in that are being recruited. So if you're like a freshman or a sophomore, you have it made a little bit better than somebody who's a senior or junior because of that extra COVID year until we get those student athletes. There's a little bit of a bottleneck still in college because they all got an extra year and a lot of them have stayed around. And I know there's quite a few people like at the University of Florida, we have a few gymnasts that are working on their masters with their extra year that they got because of COVID. So sorry, juniors and seniors, but yeah, there is a bottleneck going on. Freshman, sophomore, you have a little bit better because those students will finally be moving through.
Thank you, Pam.
Sure.
Okay, any other questions from the audience?
They're being quiet tonight. Oh, that's a good one. Do I have a checklist? I do not. But if you go to that, let me see if I can grab it real quick. I closed the PowerPoint. If you just go to the NCAA website and you look for student guide, in that student guide, there's a checklist. That's a great resource for you on that website. They'll have a checklist and everything that you should do for the different ages that your son or daughter is. They'll help walk you through it that way. But on that website, there is a checklist.
Okay, well, if we don't have any more questions for the evening, we can wrap up. Thank you again, Pam, for being with us this evening. We appreciate it. You taking the time out of your day to explain the process a little bit more for us was extremely helpful. It looks like we did get one more question in the chat box. Does your student need to
It need to be
be the top
the
at least?
top quality athlete? Not necessarily. It's the students that just really want to play at the collegiate level. A lot of students who are amazing athletes choose not to play at the collegiate level, and they will do things like play at the club level in college, which is like the JV team for NCAA, where they still wear a uniform, they still compete, they still travel around, but it's clubs where they also have a life that way. Because if you're an NCAA athlete, you are doing nothing but going to school, going to tutoring, going to your team meetings and practices and going to bed. That's what you do. So sometimes not the top athletes are recruited. Sometimes, especially like a D3 school, If you just want to have a heart to play, sometimes you can get down in a D3 or a D2. A lot of the teams will have walk-on periods. So if you're a top quality athlete, but you aren't recruited, check with the school. I know like our football team has a walk-on period in the spring. Baseball, talk to baseball, they're like, our walk-on period is pretty non-existent. So the different sports have different things that you can also double check with that way. So it's not necessarily the best of the best. You can still play college athletes, be a college athlete in many different facets. And I did drop the link to the PDF for the NCAA student guide, where you'll find checklists and all sorts of information. Dropped that in the chat.
Awesome.
Also, to piggyback on Pam's answer, in my previous life as an admissions rep for Soka University, we did have a couple of cases of walk-ons because we are a smaller school. We're not NCAA. Soka is NAIA, which is a completely different division, but we have had cases of students who participated in sports in their high school, and we've allowed students to walk on if there was room available.
And that's a good point. She's talking about the other things. So when we talk about NCAA being a governing body, there's also other governing bodies. So it's like Target versus Walmart or Macy's versus Nordstrom. It's just like, just two different types, ACT versus SAT, just another type, Coalition versus Common App, all the different things that go one way or the other. So there are more than one governing body out there. We just happen to be participatory in an NCAA, and that is the major one that most schools do participate in.
Looks like another question came into the Q&A box. Does NAIA just mean for a smaller school?
Usually, yes. Sometimes schools get mad at the NCAA and just like say, we're not playing with you anymore, and they'll go NAIA, but they're usually smaller schools, usually. But it's still, like I said, oh my gosh, there's thousands of schools in the United States, and they're all, there's so many amazing schools. So big schools, little schools, public schools, private schools. And there are, and if you ever watch like Sunday football and they go through and like, you know, they say their name and like the Ohio State University, whatever, sometimes you hear from little tiny schools that you're like, wait, what? You've never heard of these schools. So sometimes these NFL players are coming for small schools or D1, D2, D3 schools that you may not have heard of. So it's not always just the biggest. That's not, the whole NFL is not made up of, you know, Texas A&M front linemen. So it's all these little unique schools.
Okay, were there any last minute questions before we wrapped up for this evening? Maybe we'll just give it another minute or so for someone to ask any questions in the Q&A box. Okay, so I forgot to mention in the beginning of this presentation as well, where we're all stationed, where each of the college and career counselors through Futureology are stationed. So I'm at San Juan Hills High School. So if you have questions or your student would like to schedule a one-on-one appointment with me, they're able to do that by going to the Futureology website, and then they can select my calendar for San Juan Hills and schedule an appointment with me directly there. Erica Espejo is at San Clemente High School as well as Capistrano Valley High School. And then B. Nguyen is located at Aliso Niguel High School. And then we have Nicole Rengifo located at Dana Hills High School and Tesoro High School. So all of our information can be found at Futureology's website, and your student can, again, schedule an appointment with us one-on-one for college or career counseling. And with that, thank you again, Pam. We so appreciate you being here with us this evening. That was extremely helpful. For the rest of you that are still on this webinar, we will be hosting another webinar this evening starting at 5 p.m. on financial aid, navigating the cost of college. So if you're interested in that one, feel free to log in for that at 5. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for joining us tonight. Bye.
Thank you. And then Erica, did you want to address the YouTube?
Yes, will the links be posted to Futureology? What we can do, Thomas, is we can send a follow-up email to all attendees of the webinar, and we could send you links presented in this webinar.
Awesome. All right. Thank you, everyone.